How you doing, everybody? Welcome to episode 10 of PG and Dak's Real Football Podcast. This week we're joined by Murdie MacKinnon, the gaffer at Pollok. A top episode with some great laughs. Don't forget, the episode's sponsored by Fit CBD. They have a full range of organic plant-based products that will help with any sleep issues, joint pain, back pain, or if you struggle with anxiety. I use the CBD oil myself. Couple of drops under the tongue before you go to your bed. Genuinely never slept better. I'd recommend it if you've got any issues with your sleep. The 500mg strength oil is ideal if it's your first time using CBD. And for 20% discount, use the code PGDAC20. Hope you enjoy the episode. Cheers. How you doing, everybody? Here we are. Pollok, Newlandsfield.
My man Murdie!
What a nice, delighted to be in our first ever episode where we're out and about.
Out of Zoom.
It's with Pollok. We're out of Zoom, mate.
Out of Zoom, mate.
We're out of COVID and out of Zoom. And we're with the main man, Murdie. Murdie, I appreciate you letting us come in. Love it here. Great to get a wee chat with you, no?
Brilliant, Mel and welcome, lads. Great to have you down here.
Please keep me emails, mate, because I had a clanger earlier, but we'll maybe talk about that later on, Murdie boy.
I'm not like I've played here twice. Semis in the evening times, I scored a penalty into that goal. I mean, I was shite, but I scored a penalty into that goal, so...
I can't believe we got better clobber on than Murdie already for the get-go, mate.
Not a chance of that, mate. Not a chance of that.
When we'll get in, we'll get a wee chat in the dressing room and
Buzzing, man, what a place, Newlandsfield. Honestly,
it's a good night
love
for
coming down here.
Well, look at that. This is proper football, isn't it?
Proper
this is what we're all about, man.
Cheers to Pollok and Murdie for inviting the boys down.
More than welcome,
and listen, we're going to get right into it in here, so stay tuned.
Well, Murdie, that's us inside this dressing room I've never been in before. I was always in the away one when, I say always, a couple of times we get an absolute down, but we seem to be a man down. I know usually when Dak's involved at Pollok, there is a man down, but Dak, where are you?
Nobody move! Fucking told you, mate! Mate, an effort for that! It's not quite my wife when I wore at my wedding, but really why I fine. I didn't want her thinking that this was the biggest day of my life, even though it is the biggest day of my life, you know what I mean? So, let's do it. Here, smart but casual look with Uncle Dag today.
You better watch that button, Dak.
I know, I'm up Newlandsfield, mate. Go to make an effort, do you know what I mean? Look at that. Look at that.
You actually brought that way.
Brought it ways, mate. It's pressed, it's fully ready to go, you know what I mean?
For
I knew Murdie was going to make an effort.
For him to be watching this, I had no clue he was going to do that. I mean, he's fucking, he's rogue. He goes rogue too often.
Listen, we'll not be staying on it because it's rather tighter than the gears. What's happening, Murdie? You good?
I'm good, bud. You?
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Thanks for having us, mate. Thanks for having us, mate. Buzzing to be down Newlandsfield. What a place, mate. What a place, and what a guy you are. Spoke about you quite a lot in the show, haven't we, PG?
Oh, mate, we have indeed. We have a few times. Always. I mean, that's a bit disappointing you're asking all good because that means you've not been watching. But no, definitely, Murdie, we're delighted. Let's just get straight into it then, lads. This is our first show that we've done in person. Couldn't have been at a better club and at a better man, so absolutely delighted to be in. Murdie, tell us, how's the preparation going for the new season starting?
It's going well. Majority of the squad signed up. Obviously, we didn't play last year, so the majority of the squad already signed there, and added one or two into the squad, which I don't know if Dak was too happy about.
What's that boy's name? Is it Callum Graham? I'm fucking sick of hearing about him, man, honestly.
It just shows you, man, I don't hold grudges because otherwise I was ready for patching this tonight.
But no, preparation's gone well. The squad will be strong as it always is. But you know, it's good to get a couple of faces in and about it, and having the bulk of the squad kind of retained for the last year, which is great.
Have you started back training yet?
No yet.
When he's back?
Officially started June, first week in June. We're starting back, and we've got quite a few friendlies and that lined up as well. You know, having no kicked the ball for a bit. It was important.
Dak was moaning about he's not playing Ashfield, which I think shite that he's doing that to you, mate.
Well, end of the day, mate, we're meant to be friends, you know.
Meant to be.
Hold on, this jacket's coming out.
To be fair, they didn't phone me.
Well, that's it. You're Pollok, mate. You're not going chasing Ashfield. That's what's happening.
He didn't want a celebrity thing. He thinks he's too good to phone me.
Look, he is a star.
He's fed up scudding me. Well, I don't know about that, boys. I don't know about that.
Well, I think what we're on the day, we're 11th. So this episode will be on the 18th. But today was the day the announcement was made that the Colts teams are going to be getting into the Lowland League. How do you feel about that?
I don't really know, if I'm being honest with you, but it's one of these things I understand that, you know, their perspective and where they're coming from. But on the flip side of that, we're talking about the pyramid system, we're talking about progression of clubs and opportunity and stuff like that, and does it stunt or curb growth in clubs below it? Do you know, if that's the case, then I can't see it being, you know, a good thing for clubs at our level. You know, and I know a few people have you know, voiced their opinions on it and been quite vocal about their disappointment in it and stuff like that. There's decisions made. People make decisions for certain reasons, which, you know, I'm no party to the reasons behind that. So I'm not going to sit and criticise people about it. But what I would say, if it is going to stunt the growth of the clubs below and stunt the opportunity that we've got to go and progress up the leagues and stuff like that, then it is a disappointing thing. But again, you need people opportunity to come out and explain why, you know, before you start jumping down their throats and all that sort of stuff. But listen, my focus and my interest is Pollok. You know, it's here, and what's going on here and what's happening here. It's a good level of the game. It's a really good level. So you can kind of understand why Rangers and Celtic want their younger players playing at our level of the game. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of quality at this level, and I think that it's alright for us saying this because most of the people that watch this is the level they like to watch, so they know. But I think people take for granted how good, particularly like yourselves, Clydebank, Darvel, Kilwinning, kind of the Talbot, how good the level is, because you're getting really good players in. But
we were speaking off air, but before we came in, and it was like when Murdie and that was sitting saying, it's like depending on who's playing in the top levels or the championship, the top leagues, Pollok and that can have better crowds.
Aye.
4 or 5, 5th or 6th, 7th best crowds in the country.
I know.
That shows what this level's all about.
That's what you're saying, Murdie, when you've told us that. It's like, that's only an average crowd for you. You get a Talbot in the later rounds of the Scottish, if the Old Firm aren't playing or whatever, if it's an international weekend and the big clubs aren't playing, you could easily have...
That's how I'm so proud of this guy. Went for an average crowd of 15 down at Ashfield, there's an average crowd of 500 to 700.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dad, do you know what I mean? We'll stop talking
how would the other half live? He's going to get a car parking space out there, the team manager and all that. He's been unbelievable.
The fact that he wrote it himself and spelt gaffer right.
But see, mate.
You're talking about Ashfield, that's the best place to go, because we don't want to talk about Celtic and Rangers on this.
No.
Let's talk about your time at Ashfield. That was the first time I ever seen you at football, and I remember thinking, you were assistant manager at the time, you were a really young guy. What age were you when you went in as assistant for Stevie Rankin?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Must have been late 20s, early 30s. I worked with Stevie under Stevie for quite a bit, and John Conlon. Obviously Stevie and John were a partnership for a long time, so played under them at Benburn and stuff like that as well, and I've known them for a long time. And obviously when Stevie took over at Ashfield with Willie Patterson, I ended up playing for them, playing down there, you know, and had a great time, you know, some great laughs down there, and, you know, but tough times I know, you know, I'm sure it's a hard school, you know what I mean, it's difficult, you know, to get even as a player, you know, you've not got a lot, and you're there, your commitment's there, you know, you come down with your pals and that, because, you know, there wasn't money, there wasn't, you know, anything else. They did their best for this game, to go try to get a sponsorship for a bit of training gear, maybe a tracksuit or here or there or whatever, so you're trying your best to do that. There and playing, but Wally obviously moved on and you know, to the Glencairn job, and Stevie was working, you know, at Ashfield there, and he knew I was working, you know, at like St Mirren and Hamilton and like Rangers in the academies and that. And Stevie kind of knew that and kind of gave me the opportunity to take a couple of coaching sessions and all that, and it worked out. Kind of smiled out for there, to be honest with you. There's nothing fancy about it, it was just, you know, we used to train running in the wee red ash park around there, and brilliant. Listen, it was brilliant, boys loved it, we used to get, you know, into the games and all that, and there was no...
That's what I said, this is what I said,
but... It was just all...
Exactly.
Yeah, it just, the difference it shows, because we've took the boys on there a couple of times there the last season or two, mate, you want to see the looks you get, man. We're going to train in the red ash.
Boys loved it, mate.
But it's funny, like, we're laughing and joking when we're out in the park here, because obviously it's always good here, it's a lovely surface now. When we've both played here, we were at smaller clubs, and coming here you're like, oh fuck, we've got Pollok playing at Newlandsfield, and your players are moaning about, the grass is maybe a wee touch too long. Imagine they players try to go into a shitey red ash park in the middle of fucking winter when it's pissing the rain like that. It's a different ball game now that I think for the good it's changed, but I think a lot of boys don't realise how lucky they are.
I mean, the game's changed and boys have changed. The kind of youth of the day in Scotland that's kind of been grown up on the AstroTurf and all that, and they're not used to uneven surfaces, the red ash, the gravel burns and doing all that. It's kind of different. Our boys here are appreciative of what they've got. Do you know what I mean? What they here, this is a good club and they're well looked after. Do you know what I mean? In every aspect. So they're really appreciative of what the club do for them and that, and you can see it there. We've got a ground team, spending hours out there. But back in the day it was a wee bit different. You boys had boys at Ashfield there, like Martin Galt, and that, who was a really good player. Galt, he was a terrific player. Michael Tollins, Darren O'Donnell's, Mark Thompson, who was there a long time with us, and Tony Chalmers, an smashing player. Tony was a great boy, brilliant lad, and great player and all. Ali Martins and that. So we had a lot of really good players, and what I would probably say is get in young. You're right saying that you're young, but the response that I got from particularly guys like Martin Galt and that, who are bought into it right away, they kind of give you the respect that you know what you're talking about. So when you go to the respect today, and they kind of went alignment to Stevie and I and what we were doing and how we planned and how we taken the team forward, but listen, you talk about coaching and managing this and that, it's about the players, about the group of players you've got as well, them actually going, playing, implementing it, doing what you want them to do and buying into it really. Another thing they are kicking about it, obviously, it's no rocket science. What a dressing room, it was amazing. You were involved in it at some stages.
I just get brought in for noon a game when they wanted something daft to happen, you know what I mean?
Dad, come on in this stupid looking jacket.
Just come in this jacket, go and dance in the buff on that table or something. I want a league, go and dance in the buff.
I wouldn't say that, but Dad was involved in that a bit, about the dressing room and all that, and involved in the training and all that. Good boys. Really good boys, and I look back fondly on that thing, I really do. You know what I mean? Great club and on. I mentioned on a previous podcast that I had done that Ashfield was a place, and I'm sure it still is to a certain extent, where you walked in, you actually smelt the history in it. Do you know what I mean? It was really.
This is what I mean about Ashfield, Murdie, and you what I mean.
Stevie Chalmers and all that, just a husband line. It's amazing to think,
Like, although we've maybe not got the resources to give players like big money and all that, but fuck me, the history's good. It's unbelievable at the club. The players that have played in it, as Murdie says there, Lisbon Lions and that, and the history and the amount of years the club's been gone, do you know what I mean? It's unbelievable.
Well, that's see when we did the memories thing, and I'd said, obviously me and Dak talk all the time, and we talk about stuff, not always about the podcast, but that's generally a lot about what we do. And I was saying that to him when we did the memories one. I was like, I've played at Ashfield a few times, and I know what it's like, and I've been in when we met Maxie and stuff, but see when you go in, it feels like that. And I said that to him, I says, when we did the memories, he took us about and he did the wee tour, and you're like, this is proper football and it's great. People don't see that, and I think it's brilliant.
Do you know, I agree, but that Pollock's the same a wee bit. Pollock's the same, like
I know what you mean.
Pollok for the backing and everything like that. This still feels like the proper club, and it feels old school. It's no all went new. They've no forgotten about their roots. Do you get me? Do you know that way when you come in the dressing room and the dressing room's same? What do you think, Murdie?
I think I agree with you to a certain extent. There's and it's not a criticism by any means, because the clubs need to evolve and they need to move forward, and you're using different models and whatever else, and need to modernise as well. There's been a huge kind of influx of like artificial surfaces and kind of sports complexes getting used and stuff like that, and perhaps it's maybe taking a bit of that kind of historic feel away from it. But clubs need to modernise and they need to move forward, and that's it's great that they're able to do that, because I mean far too often you're hearing the clubs going out the game and all that sort of stuff. So they have to evolve, and they're doing the right things for their clubs and stuff like that. But I do agree with you. Like this club, you walk in here, you can kind of feel it. But Ashfield was the same. You walked in the next day, and you walk in, and you know what I mean. It's one of the places, you know what I mean. That's that history you're talking about. When you look at guys like Walter Smith and that, being involved with the club, you're like, wow,
brilliant.
See, obviously going back onto your time at Ashfield, and you were very young getting in. How did you find being such a young man getting in? Like you've said, the boys were great with you and stuff. Did you have a lot of input early doors, or did you build into that? Did Stevie just go, no, I trust you, you're in my mates, it's me and you?
Stevie and I had a great relationship, we still do have a great relationship, do you know what I mean? We're doing, and it was a relationship that there was a lot of trust in, a lot of trust built, and that takes time to build that, of course, but and the response I had for the players was good, because I was confident about what I was doing, but there's part of that, if you show that, and You know, you show your confidence and your beliefs in how you're going to play and what you're going to do, and you lay that out for the boys well. And the boys, you know, they're no daft. You know, they're sitting there and they'll go, he's got half a clue what he's talking about. You know what I mean? Stevie, the way we kind of worked, you know, he did put a lot of faith in me in terms of thinking about how we're going to play, asking my suggestions on it and this and that. He was a gaffer ultimately, you know what I mean? But he did put a lot of faith in that in terms of doing the training and all that. I would take care of that. But a man manager.
See, I've only met him a few times, and like obviously playing against your teams and stuff, but he just seems like there is a presence about him. I think he just seems like such a good guy, you know what I mean? He does have a way about him, see when he talks, you listen to him.
When we done that behind the scenes,
the memories
tour, he even looks immaculate.
I know.
He turns up, man, you're like, you look $1 million, Steve, you know what I mean? But Murdie, you're
I was with him last week. It was obviously sadly Kathy, it was that for us at Ashfield, she passed away there sadly, and it was her funeral there, so I was with him last week too, as I attended her funeral, and we went to say our final respects there, and but people like that, Big Davy Niven, do you know what I mean? The place revolved around them, do you know what I mean? The people who don't get recognition, they see myself, Stevie, the players, this and that, there's guys in the background, do you know what I mean? We're doing things that were incredible, kept the club going day to day.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
You seen that when we were at Blantyre, they had 3 or 4 guys doing, and this is like a Wednesday morning, and they're all putting in
Big Ben.
Mate, Big Ben's, that's how much money Pollok have got to bought Big Ben and put it outside. Honestly.
I thought it was a big centre-half he'd signed Big Ben. What's going on?
That's my grandfather.
Well, you're getting old, Murdie, like, come on, mate. Is that another time up?
He's got a timepiece in his pocket as well with it. But he's obviously had, in a few years, you had a very successful period at Ashfield. Was that, obviously now you want to replicate that in terms of winning the top league here, and you've built a squad that look like they're more than capable of it. Up to now, has that kind of been one of your favourite periods in football?
Listen, I've enjoyed it all. I've enjoyed it all. It's been great, and I've worked the majority with Stevie, which has been a great bonus. And listen, brilliant for me, because what I've learned and been able to bring to my end goals, you know, in terms of Blantyre before I came here, now here, it, you know, has been so helpful. And he's still at the end of the phone and all that, and I still speak to him regularly and that. He's great, but I've enjoyed it all. But that time was a really special time, you know, for us, because it's like you don't have anything. You know, you're fighting against the odds, and you're up against it continually, and you're going out against Polloks, like Talbots, and this and that. And at that point, you know, we were beating these teams. We were. Do you know what I mean? You know, it was a couple of seasons back. You know, like Talbot, people had no chance of beating them 3 times in one season, and kind of unheard of, you know, and it was 1-0 and that, and we were backs to the wall, and we were hanging on for our lives, and we were doing whatever at the time, you know. And I remember one of the games we went down to Talbot, I think it was the Evening Times, I think it was the semi-final, it was either at the West, it was the semi of the West, and Tony Chalmers, it was talking about, he just came off a plane, so he'd been on the booze for a fortnight or whatever it was, and it was later on in the season, you know what I mean, that he scores the goal and the wee man taking cramp and he couldn't run the whole game. Big Gavin Collins, he says the wee man's castle jumped off and ran into the bushes.
I think I'd have done my best just to run away from Gavin Collins, to be honest. I remember playing against them, just to digress a bit. We played them when I was at Cum, we played the Talbot in a friendly. It was during the winter and it was at some school down in Ayrshire, and I was paddling up front, and Big Gavin Collins just came through and just cleaned me out. I've shat myself, and the next time the ball went up and I jumped up and I stuck my leg out, I was just shite myself just to protect it. I kicked him right in the balls and he grabbed me after it. He's like, "What are you doing this for? You just fucking leathered me." Like, "I'm not going to let you do it to me again." I was fucking terrified him. But anyway,
Big man walked out when it was the gum shield. That was enough for me.
This isn't rugby, mate. But see, like, obviously you're talking about having nothing in terms of money in that at Ashfield, and now you're in a good position where you are one of the lucky few teams that have reasonable resources.
Yep.
How do you find that in contrast, working from then and now?
It's different. It is different.
Brings different challenges.
Different challenges, and there's sometimes different mentalities about it. And like any club, you'll get really good pros, and you know they're grateful to get. And then you know you've other players in the past where every pound's a prisoner, and it's all about that, you know what I mean? And I'm pleased I don't have that here, you know what I mean? I've got boys here that want to be Pollok, want to be successful, want to play. But you know, listen, I don't know, everybody's well looked after here, and you know, I'm not one of these people that run away and say, oh no, we don't pay this and we don't, you know what I mean? We don't pay the actual amounts that.
Hello, Mick. Mick, is he talking about you?
I
think he strips, man. I think he starts talking about dough. Somebody always gets a penny, man.
No, Mick knows his score, he knows how it is, a wee joke.
Aye. No, they're doing well, they're doing a lot of work down there and all. But listen, it's a club that you're absolutely right. I'm no sitting here saying that it's the richest club in the world and this and that. It's absolutely far from the truth. But what we are is we're a club who's kind of forward thinking, and we want to progress and stuff like that, and everybody gets looked after well, and that's not just a financial thing. You're looked after well, you get looked after from the minute you walk in the door. You met Dele Kitman earlier, and how great Dele is, brilliant, he does everything for the boys.
Well, that's it, see these kit, right? I'm just going to go into this, right? Look at that, right?
I'm no fitty.
That's what I'm going to try on, because you can't be a fat goalie and sign with Pollok.
I know.
Hold on a minute.
Short sleeves and everything, mate.
Due to COVID restriction, it's actually
That's
not bad.
alright, mate.
Yeah, alright then. Right, listen.
I've got a pen here, Murdie, if I just get him signed in it.
Listen, man. Fucking Murdie, man. Murdie would never sign me, you know what I mean? But can I wear this for a couple of 10 minutes, is that alright? Due to COVID, need to hose it down. Not only take my clothes off, you know what I mean, but putting them on now.
That's alright.
Just to see what it feels like, you know what I mean? Feel like you play for Pollok.
See your little Pollok jersey and all that.
It's Murdie wanted to sign me for Pollok, man. Brought me down here and gave me the spiel. charge me a tenner a week to play.
So, obviously with that Ashfield team, it's been very successful and it's been a very good side. I can attest to that myself playing against them. But I can imagine there's a couple of stories in that team.
My God, man. Honestly, there's some that I can't tell, you know what I mean? But there's a couple of characters.
Tell away for the ones you think of.
Early doors, guys like Paul McDougall in the dressing room. Paul was a brilliant boy. I was actually with him again at the funeral on Wednesday.
Was he there?
Great boy. And Paul's one of these boys, you know what I mean, at the time where didn't everything. Do you know what I mean? Christmas, he was selling Christmas decorations and all this and that. Aye. So
trying to sell football kits, he was trying to sell his own team a new set of strips for that. You know what I mean? Dale boy.
He's one of the characters, so it's coming up to, you know, fireworks night and all that, so obviously he's selling the fireworks and that, and there was a boy who played as an offer, a really good player, long bit of juniors a long time, Mick McBreary. I don't know if you know Mick or not. And Mick was one of these boys that, I'm sure you probably will mind me saying, but he comes in with the silk ties and all that at the time.
Gucci ones and all that. I thought it was Gumley to start with, because he was always a man for the winner.
But Mick was one of these guys, man, he put a £3,000 suit on him, know what I mean? That's not for you, but he had a good job in that Mick. He comes in the big jeep and all that, and he's got the tie and he comes swaggering into the dressing room. He's a bit older than the others, and his silk tie. What do you think of that, lads? You know, 50 quid, and somebody fucking threw lots of paint with it, not I mean, it's horrendous. Right, so again, we're all around training, we partisans go to all around training, we're all running up and down, and it's freezing, you know what I mean, so you're seeing your breath, and it's, you know, down at Ashfield, it's not like it was done up now, it was pitch black, you can't see anything in front of you, you know what I mean, and we came round for the training, and Roger goes, oh, McBreary! And you look at me like that, looking out of the park, you know, like taxi near's McDougall standing out in the middle, right in the centre spot, and he's got a rocket like that size. It's like, tell me, he's tied to it. You know what I mean? So he's like, this rocket's went up in the air, man. Boom, man, honestly, it's lit up the jungle and everything, you know what I mean? It's like, boom, it's everywhere, man, this ties came sprinkling down McBreary, he's just like, honestly, we were all hanging out there, we won all that, we were all hanging out, couldn't move. But I'd set off about 3 months of madness in the dressing room, because at that, the next game, McDougall's in getting a shower, right? And McBreary's got a pair of scissors at the physio and he's cut the balls out in fucking McDougall trackies. So it started that madness. 4 years behind it, us boys getting involved. We're coming in on a Saturday after the game, boys no stripped. I actually think it was me Tony Chalmers. We've come in this day. Somebody's trouser leg was tied to somebody's shirt arm, and it was a big daisy chain on it. And it was a big pile of Chinese in the middle of the flare, and everybody's socks were cut. So they were cut. So you know, and Stevie at the time, he's like, and he's like, look, this has got to stop. This has got to stop.
Full somebody takes it around.
He comes in, and it was the two of them. They were only kidding. The two of them were rolling about with a pair of scissors trying to get him out. He cut stuff up and all that. But me, a time I've come in and your ties cut and all that, man. It's what they do, but they don't just cut it and leave it. You know what I mean? They hang it up as if it's all right, and then you go to
put your tie and the hang just falls.
Oh,
see, the thing is, but I love, but he's that premeditated, he's driving about his work all day, thinking, what can I do, and goes, you know what, I'm going to go and buy a big rock and I'm going to sell and get his talent.
Absolutely brilliant, honestly, it was hilarious, man, it was funny. There was another time we were going to a night out, actually talking about Paul, and just springs to mind, and his brother picked us up, and his brother's been driving a taxi and that, and we were going over the Kelvin Bridge, and we were going up, I think it was by a road or something like that, we were going up to, he said, "Brother, turn that out. He's like, no, turn it off. He's like, no. And he just does that with a CD, he goes like that, eject, rolls down the window, he just goes like that, right in the His brother's like that, taxi, and he's out the fuck. Parked us all out, honestly, parked us all out. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, but a great boy, great memories, you know what I mean, in there as well. He was hard to, Paul was hard to manage, you know that, but he brought a lot to him, by the way, what a good football player.
He came to us when we were playing.
See, that's the thing, like,
I still got a good day with him, man.
He gets involved in our stuff on Twitter and that, and I don't know him personally, but he's always firing in stuff on the Twitter and that, and like he's always involved in it, and I'm like, I don't know this guy, but I like his stories.
Don't get me wrong, the amount of clubs he's had, because he offends somebody at every club he's been at, know what I mean?
You get to know him, he's a heart of gold, he's a brilliant guy, so he's an absolutely brilliant guy, and that epitomises him as well, because we're obviously at that funeral, Stevie and I are storing it, and Paul you just see Paul walking in and out the blue, that epitomises what he's about, you know, he's a good guy, you know what I mean?
And that's what always hangs with you and Stevie and all that. We're all ex-kind of players of yours, and I know you, and you still talk to them on social media, and boys can pick up the phone at any time and all that. So I love that. See, when I'm still that with Davey Gregg, although he's probably not talking to me now because he's been physical. But I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into that. Right?
Because him and David Galt will be sitting in the house and they're matching jammies, raging about it, man.
No, but no, and I think that's amazing. The big thing I wanted to ask Murdie, right, is because we're quite, and I know everybody's probably fed up in hearing that about Ashfield because I'm on this, but obviously it's a club I love and got a close affection when I'm wearing now. For you getting in as a young coach, obviously, like say myself and we Ryan Kelly and that, we are young coaches. How do you think you won the players there quickly for any aspiring young coaches? Do you think it was your training sessions? Do you think it was the way you were about the dressing room? Do you think it was your success and your achievements as a player, or do you think it was just a mix of everything?
I think there's a bit of everything, but like I say, you know, I always think about it's like the players buying into what you do, you know what I mean? Because you can be the best coach in the world, you get in the players don't buy into it for any reason, then you're only a loser, you know what I mean? But it's probably having that bit of belief for Stevie, you know, give me the kind of reins in terms of training and whatever else. And then, you know, having the confidence to go in, and you need to be, you know, the coach need to be confident to be able to talk and put your ideas across and do that well in a way that you understand. And I always kind of, I'll be honest with you, I like to keep things simple at that point. Just keep it simple. This is your job, and this is what you're doing. And do you know what I mean? And I'd live by that kind of rule. Listen, I'm not going to give you a hard time if you know you're not done your job, and I've not told you what exactly I'm looking for you. Do you know what I mean? So it was always like that. And the boys kind of responded to that, they respected that, and you know, I got everything out them. Right. And there probably was a couple of times, and you know, there's a bit of luck in that and all, you know, because there's a couple of times where things weren't going well, and I'm saying to Mick Toll, just you stay high, stay high wide, and you know, the ball come to you and we'll win this game, we win it, and we do, you know what I mean? That's not because of me, that's just the boys have been performed, and it's maybe a bit of belief in the kind of, for that it kind of snowballs and it spirals, but you need to get a bit of momentum behind you, and you need to stamp your own thoughts and your own kind of.
See, you're saying that like you're saying to McToll and stay high in that. See, for me, I think that's a big thing that players buy into. Even if it's not necessarily a way that the players want to play football. Say, like, you look at Man City, very open, right? I know they're one of the best teams in the world, right? But they play a certain way, right? And they don't deviate for it. But see, if John Stones makes an arse of it and they lose a goal, you can tell Guardiola's like, nah, it's all right. I've told you to play like that. So that gives the players that belief where they can go, well, I know what he wants me to do. If I make a mistake, I know he's not going to crucify me for doing what he wants me to do. And I think, like you're saying, you're telling them to stay high. I think that's important to players so they know if they make the mistake, you can't play with fear, so you've got to know that you've got that, you're allowed to go and do what you're expected to do.
Good players, we had a lot of good players there, you know, it's that can't be, you know, emphasised enough, you know, really good players, and you know, you guys like started, like, I mean, we ended up with Big Jamie Smith, you know, playing at centre.
Aye. Big Jim came in and helped us for a bit, I know, he's so knowledgeable, I know, it was just watching him.
He was on the management team for a bit, me and Stevie, he was brilliant for us. And a brilliant player and all, centre half, great experience. But his younger brother, Alan,
Spider.
You know, Spider. And earlier on in my career, when I was only about 16, 17, I actually played with Medda. Big Spider, old Spider, what a player he was, you know.
Zach Smith?
16 or something.
No. See, Big Jimmy helped us, and no one word of a lie, came in and he was so knowledgeable. And see, defensively, he literally came in for like 4 or 5 weeks. And we started keeping clean sheets, and it was just because during the game he sat there and he was so good with the back four, so good, like telling him to go into areas, and then the boys were like winning the ball and I was pure me and Maxie and that, unbelievable the differences, like, you know what I mean?
Great experience, I've got monopoly, you know, higher level, playing the championship time and all that, and I think interestingly that season we won the Super First Division, we went to the Premier League. Big Jimmy, I think he was maybe the top goal scorer. Taking on the penalties and 3 kicks by the way, you know, he buried them, you know what I mean? He was a great player for him, but his younger brother Alan, do you know what I mean? He was one of the players that kind of started it with, you know, started it off for us, and Big Tom and that, like I say, Dan O'Donnell's and obviously Big Maxie being there as well, you know, he was obviously in with what me and Big Maxie played together, you know what I mean?
You see what I talk about. I know who these people are for playing against them, but I don't know them personally. But see, whenever we put something on, if it's Ashfield related and that, they all get involved on Twitter and they're all talking about it, and you can see there's still a kind of togetherness there, which is massive, you know what I mean? You have had your great spell at Ashfield, which is obviously why people have started looking at you, and then you have moved on to the Medda. You had that tremendous start, was it kind of 10 in the bounces one or something in the league?
That was I think that was the second season. Aye, first season we went to the semi-final of the Scottish Cup and beat Hurlford, the 2 legs. So no, we did well there to start with. Aye.
What do you think changed? Because obviously you have had that great spell in your second season, and then you have had a really hard spell after that, which has eventually led to you losing your job. What do you think the change was for the start to there? I suppose if you knew that, it wouldn't have happened. But
exactly. Well, it's hard to put your finger on it, but listen, you know, again, Medda was a good club. People think, oh, you can get sacked and all that, but nah, I've not got anything there, you know, really to say. In regard to that part, you know, we started our tenure there really well. You know what I mean? I think we lost the league by 3 points to Talbot the first season, and we played Culnett for some reason, I don't know why, but I mean, it was battered down every ground in the country was off that day, and we decided to play the game. It wasn't your decision, but you know, the game was on and it was going, and we lost 2-1 that day. And again, a lot of good players, guys like Mark Twaddle and Mark Staunton involved in the team, you know, top players, Alan Weir, Tom, Gary McCann's, obviously Gary was on the scene at that point, and he was obviously came to us at Ashfield, kind of later on in our life at Ashfield, but Gary was there, and Chrissy Hall, and a lot of wee Berto.
Also kicking a ball and all, that's how good players.
Really good players. Sean Fraser, who's here with me, Sean, and do you know,
Frazzy still the DJ?
Still really good
tunes man, innit? Tunes man.
Great boy.
Frazzy's right on my street when it comes to the tune department.
Well, you can't see it right, but behind the camera is a double fridge and the speaker, and I'm not sure what one's bigger, to be honest with you, so I can imagine if Frazzy's got the good tunes on it.
We used to play this tune man in Ashfield when I was there, it was Ode to Oil was called, man. It was we used to go dancing in the restroom, but
that's a lot of good players here. That first year semi-final Scottish Cup, Darren Moore, Darren was here, and Big Paul, Maxie was doing one of his career breaks for Ashfield, you know. He was doing so with a side a bit of we defended really well, and we tended to be one of the teams where we would go bang 1-0 up, shut up shop, and we were hard to beat, hard to break down, you know. Big Sidey was there, he was here with me now as well.
You just try to give everybody a shout on here, Murdie.
I'll give you a shout. Me and Sidey played together in Mary Hill.
Sidey, Razzie.
What a good players, you know what I mean?
See, it's worse, mate, because see if you left anybody out, mate, they'll let you know on social media, man. Telling you, mate.
If I said that I missed it, I apologise. But no, the second season we came in with Stafford Housing Fire, we went 10 in a row. We won 10 in a row. And
Don't talk about 10 in a row, still raw for me.
it's unfortunate.
Still hurts me.
It's unfortunate. But no, we won 10 games in a row, and I don't think it had been done. You know, up to that point. So you're sitting there, you know, 30 points, and people are that's the league done. And no us or no players by any means, but people outside it, like that's the league done. Medda ran away with this and that. And I remember the first game we get beat was at Christmas time, and it was Kilbirnie beat us at home, and one of the ex-players, Richie Barr, scored. We beat 3-1 with Kilbirnie, and went the Christmas break. And the next game after that was Talbot at Beechwood, and it was like kind of right. We need to bounce back here. This is a tough game. And we always had hard games with Talbot. And they were a top side at the time with Gormley and all them. And do you know what I mean? Pettigrew and Martin McGoldricks and all that top side. As well. We were a good side and all, and we had a real bit about us. But at that time we had brought in guys like MacKinnon, who was a great big guy. I loved Mick, he was brilliant. Jordan Murchie was in us, but we started to kind of add a few as well to what we did there. And we went down and we beat them 2-0. We beat them 2-0 at New Year down there, and we thought, right, great, on we go. I think we won one their game, and that was it. We didn't win another game.
What was the dressing room like?
This is the thing.
But just looked at that season.
When we were talking,
almost it was like a calendar year, because we went into the next season, which wasn't great. We didn't start well. We get beaten the first league game at Shettleston. Do you know what I mean? They'd just been promoted and all that, and it just.
See, Stevie, but I know you'll not mind me probably saying this, but this is what Stevie said. Stevie, when we were talking to him, mind up the Ashfield, he was saying, like, Dak, PG, he's like, just couldn't put a finger on it. He said, see if you came and watched us training, he said, see the standard, he said it was unbelievable. And he said, and for whatever reason, it just wasn't happening on a Saturday at that point. He says, but when you were watching, you were going, man, we're flying here, we look different class. And then just for whatever reason, it just didn't come through for the Saturday for a while. So I don't know, did you think
we were going, the boys worked really hard, because I wouldn't, some people would say, there was the dressing room and they done this and that. That isn't the case at all, you know what I mean? It's nothing to do with the dressing room and the players. Obviously it was because we weren't getting results, but you know what I mean? It wasn't the players were doing it, man. They were all trying their hardest. They weren't turning up being lazy. They weren't doing anything like that. They were a good group of boys, you know what I mean? People were actually saying that's probably the best squad of players that's ever been assembled in the juniors. Look at that, do you know what I mean? And you're going, in paper, but you need to deliver, you know? Exactly. And it's, but I agree with Stevie on that. You couldn't, because the boys were coming in and they were gutted, man. They were absolutely gutted. You know, we beat 1-0 and this and that. We went on a bad result, but we picked up a result, and it was Bees. I think they came to make a part, and I think we were 4-0 up after 20 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Maybe against Bees, and we got a result, but it's kind of see thereafter. It was it was difficult, you know. One of the games that kind of epitomised it. I mean, we get beat 7-1 with Troon at Troon. Big Todds, first I think 5-10 minutes if you're lucky into the game, get sent off. Last man, it was that time of the last man tackle, we get sent off. And
would they tackle with his nose? Because we know Big Todd, you know what I mean? He's Big Todd, like that.
Big Todds with some defender, but an out winner.
I remember seeing that. I went to school with him and he was always a winger. And then the next minute he went senior football and then he ended up going back to left back, and then he ended up centre half, and then he had a good career. I think
the big man went for like Thistle to Rochdale.
Scored the winner for Falkirk against Rangers. Pollok FC was in charge, because we were pals with him. And he came down the pub and everybody was trying to buy him a drink. Apart from me, obviously. Well, I was, because I thought he was getting rid of Pollok FC.
But he's went to that level. He's played at United for a bit. You know, I think 6 months or so to Alfred Medda. He was a top player. You know what I mean? But an out winner, an absolute demon in the dressing room. He hated getting beat, you know what I mean? And I remember
Twad God, he used to call himself a Twad God. Honestly.
What happens in the dressing room kind of stays in the dressing room, boys, but I've seen him one day with Celeste when we hang back in it. You know what I mean? They had an argument with Staunton, big Mark Staunton. You know, there was a table in the middle of the dressing room at Medda Park, and the tactics board was on the lawn. he grabs and jumps up and he starts shouting and bawling, he's slabbering at the moving on, and he's moving men about, and he's like, you do this and you do that. I think we get done with a throwing or something like that, and they didn't swap, but he's went berserk, you know, because somebody's kind of answered them back like one of the other boys has, and they're all, and it's something, but just that will and that want to win and want to do things properly.
Fair enough. See if you chat, see if you hang with them, and I'm not a hard person, but he would have shot it if they really went for him.
He's like the safety of being address him. See,
I
like,
love that, it was the same as
Big McKinnon, you know, Murchie, Tomo, Maxie.
Big Mick always
These boys are been winners, you know what I mean? So they didn't go and deliberately. You get
I'm still listening, I'm just stick this back here.
It was tough, it was a tough time, there's no doubt.
See, like, I've spoken about it before, like, when I managed for my year and a half, and it's obviously a much lower level, and we had like a really hard start when I took air, and then we had this purple patch where it was like we couldn't lose, and then just at the crucial point in the season, we started losing games that we weren't losing before, and it was one of the ones you're talking about, you couldn't put your finger on it. I kind of get what you mean, where it's like, I even look back now, 3 years down the line, I'm like, I still don't know where it went wrong, and I don't know what yous are like in terms, but I always think, I don't really blame the players, because I always think, what was I doing? What was no working right that could I have changed? You know what I mean? And I remember
we blame players, didn't we?
No.
You know what I mean? I know Maxie, that can't get in there against Pollok right now.
That wasn't Maxie's fault.
We were doing well that day, and we got it back to 2-1, and then Sidey's way to put a cross in, man, and it's one of the Liverpools. It's moved a lot, and then moved a lot in the win, no. Then the next one,
perfect day.
I'm running backwards, no. And then the next thing I just hear, I'm like, it's away, no. I didn't give it a wee shout, it's away. And the next one, the clock, I just hear a roll, I'm going, what the fuck happened here? Boys in the back of the net. 2 guys behind my work are giving me stinking. Anyway, moral of the story, Maxie still blames me, and the boys are still caning me training for that, and that was 2 seasons ago.
It's good that they've let it go, you know what I mean?
I tell you, that's how I've been retired since.
Mate, it's hard, because when you know you can't do it anywhere, it's fucking difficult.
But listen, ultimately, the time at the Medda came to an end, because the bottom line is there was Medda dying, the results weren't good enough, and you know, in credit to Stevie, you know, held his hands up to that, and I held my hands up, and like exactly you said, we questioned ourselves continually. This wasn't he's no doing that, or he's no doing that, or he's no been playing well enough there. It's about us, what are we doing? What are we doing different? What am I freshening up in the training ground? What's he doing different about his job? And we were doing that, and we were turning over every rock, and it wasn't happening. And it kind of went for a place of, listen, you've got our support. We know you are turning, and you know, in my belief personally, we would have turned it around. We would have, because there were opportunities there to do that. The players, there were, you know, good players there.
Good players, and use only a bad management
team. You don't become a bad team overnight, and something just wasn't happening, and it would have ticked to her. But ultimately, results are results, and like I said to you, the previous season we went 10 in a row and then hardly won a game after, and then you're going into the new season and you're run up to Christmas and you've hardly won a game.
You see people talking about kind of winning breeds winning, losing breeds losing, and it doesn't matter, like you're saying, that good players, good management. See, when you're in that rut, even if you can be playing well in games, it's hard, because you always have that doubt in your head. If you lose, I go, oh fuck, here we go again.
Me as well, don't get me wrong. Listen, see Medda, see Pollok, see Clydebank, Talbot, like winning and all that. They've got big followings. See, if you start losing games, we're all human beings. How do you believe? See, even the Rocknut have got big followings, but expectations there. So it doesn't matter, like as you say, towards some player. You can feel it, your confidence. You could probably, as a player, I'd imagine, like, listen, I didn't play at top level at junior football, but you could feel like the 10 people shouting at you, the confidence. So you imagine 500 people, 600, 700 people frustrated. No, that's you can't
get away from it.
That's how you always see Murdie MacKinnon, they're always back.
See, the thing is, that's a good point though. You can imagine where here, big game, couple of thousand people or whatever it is, and you're having a bad day, and the crowd maybe start groaning when you're getting the ball. You're like, oh, even though you have guys who are here who are winners, because that's how you get to this level and they're good football players. You're a person, you'd be like, you maybe like, I don't know if I want the ball now, and it can get into you a wee touch just because you're people, you know what I mean?
Listen, ultimately that's, you know, from my perspective, that's why you're a Pollok player or a Talbot player, and that's why, and it's no disrespect to any club, but that's what I would say, that's why you're a Pollok player, that's why you're here. you know, there is players who come in kind of freezing that occasion where they're brilliant players, but they come in trick. I mean, it's been known it happens, but say to them, you know, big clubs, big results, it requires big players, it requires big personalities. You know what I mean? To be able to go and be able to handle that pressure and be able to handle, you know, you're no scored in the first 15 minutes, the crowd are getting back. Do you know what I mean? But it's like you need to be big enough to be able to handle that pressure, and to be a certain extent, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful to any supporters at all, but you need to block that out and you need to focus on
even for you, because listen, let's be honest, I know you as a person on a personal level as well, and you're fiery, Murdie, you can be fiery, and there's going to be times in there where you've took it stinking not out, and how do you?
I'm probably not as fiery as I was when I was younger, and you know, because again you're learning from guys like Stevie and other people that you've worked with, and you kind of settle. So I'm probably no as fiery at, but what I'm telling you, you know, you don't get involved with people in the crowd, and then listen, they're coming in, they're paying their money, they're entitled to tell you what their thoughts are and whatever else, and some people take things too far. I'll be honest with you, our supporters here have been brilliant, they've been nothing but supportive to us. You know, the voice of their opinion, if they're not happy with the performance, it's been beaten quite rightly so, you know what I mean, if they're disappointed their team haven't won. I'm not here to say that they can't do that, and I wouldn't dream of doing that. They've supported this club a lot longer than I've been doing that, so they're entitled to do that. But what I would say for the vast bulk of my time here, there've been nothing short of absolutely brilliant with us and the players. Do you know what I mean? That's an important part of support.
That's the thing, they're here to support the club.
I know it's
supporters don't go intentionally to go and why do their teams. They want to go and watch their team win and
by the time you read it, I mean, you're talking about names. I mean, Berto was there as well, and
go have a couple of stories about Berto, surely.
Berto, mate, Berto did Berto not buy the other Medda was a drum?
He bought him a drum.
He bought him a drum, mate. Well, he probably didn't buy him, mate. He probably blagged it off somebody, you know.
But talking about buying things, I used to pick him up, right, and we used to travel down in the motors and that, so I picked him up this day and there's the big garage at Q8 on top of it, so we used to never get juice and that, but I need water, so he's in, gets the juice and all that, so there's this guy pulled up in the motor, and he's like, that team, I'm sitting in the motor, says, hurry up, and he's like, aye, alright, he was alright, he says, there's a cloak again,
Big Ben, I guess.
Dracula keeping it.
Me, still that crosses.
This guy's like, you want to buy a telly, mate? And I'm sitting in the motor, and he's like, you know what Berto was like, he's like, how much? 100 quid, mate, 100 quid, I want it, a 42-inch telly. And he's like,
he gives them this, let's eat this, mate, let's eat this.
But out the blue, and I'm like, and I'm sitting in the motor.
Gypsies, I think,
so honestly, I swear to God, the wee man's got a telly out the back, and he's got a cellophane on it, and he's holding it up like a Champions League trophy. You know what I mean? He's got his mouth into me through the motor. What they buy one, it's brilliant, 100 quid. And he's like, with this telly. So it's parked the motor, and he's like, you get this in the boot? And I was like, you get it in the boot. So I'm sitting there, and he's into the garage. And he's in the way into the garage, the best bit about this is the way into the garage, the wee guy's pulled out in the motor, and he's going to the roundabout, do you know, outside it, and he's beep beep, and he's waving at him and all that, and he's came out and I'm hitting him. He says, wee man, where's the remote and all that for that telly? And he's went, I've been there at Clingfall. So I says, you better go and check that at Clingfall. He takes the Clingfall, there's not even a plug on it. You guys like it,
Lads, minded that.
maybe he's had a cut, so he's like, right, I'm taking this in, so he goes in, the fair play to the wee woman, she's got a plug in there and they put the plug on it and they try it, honestly, his screen's all cracked. He's laughing, he's tried to order like Champions League trophy, I'm getting all that, he's like to me, don't tell the boys now, don't tell the boys. I'm like, nah, I'm not telling the boys, I've ordered the message in the ball.
Don't tell the boys, no happening.
He got absolutely slaughtered, but he's the wee guy that around him, he's like, bastard, mate, I get him, man, what can I more did he have?
I'll find him.
See, to be honest,
Done tight, you know what I mean?
it's like I've only spoke to Berto a few times, and it's like I don't know him overly well, but I think, see if somebody's trying to sell you a telly for £100 at the Q8 garage, who's never met you before.
But he's got the phone in him in the back of the motor. This guy's got the phone tellies.
What's this guy doing break noise tellies?
See the thing about Berto, this is the biggest comment. He would drive to the next garage and he would buy the telly off him again. Go up, well, it might be one that works.
Oh, bro.
I howled all the way to Medda Park for this, so I did absolutely howl, and he's like, he's raging, you know that way. Every time he's seen something, I'm just exploding again.
That's brilliant, man. Right, moving away for the Medda, where you've done the exchange student with Davy Gregg, he's went to the Medda and you've went to Blantyre, your first time in charge. How did that feel going in, being the number one and not having Stevie with you?
Obviously I had spoken to Stevie about it and what his plans. Stevie indicated to me he was going to retire and it was enough, you know what I mean, for him, and wanted to settle, spend a bit of time with his wife, you know. I understand because he was in the game for 30-40 years, man. He was a long time in the game, you know, well respected. So getting the opportunity, I think it was only, I think we got the sack in the run up to Christmas, you know what I mean, type of thing, and I was back in it and hugged my knee. Do you know what I mean? So I was out for like a week, 2 weeks maximum, you know what I mean, type of thing. But again, you're going into the dressing room, I know you're talking about it the other night, and I'm not going to get into it, but you know, dressing room like with Terry Hewitt, Lee McShane, Mark Thompson was there at that point, Craig Smith was an ex-player, striker, Smiddy, really good player, really good striker, a lot of good players in that dressing room. I take in wee bag of sort of go with Manu, Ian Penman and Michael Toland. Came in with Michelle McInnes was at Fizzle, Michelle's doing it, I think she's at Scarlets now with Southie and that, so Michelle and that was there as well, so we had a really good start, and what with a really good bunch of boys who had been successful with David had been successful with them, you know what I mean, they'd done really well. They'd lost one or two, you know, like David Galt and that had moved up into the seniors and that, so, but they still was all at the basis of a good team, bringing in boys like Craig Buchanan and Kevin Green's there, Davy Green's brother as well. So basically a really good team, and again it was about getting in and putting across your ideas. I knew a lot of the boys, I'd worked with some of them like Big Lee McShane. Lee would run through a brick wall for you. A great boy, I know, by the way, a great boy to have in your dressing room, great boy to lead the charge, do you know what I mean, and everything would give you his all, absolute all, do you know what I mean, and having boys like that in your dressing room was like, it's a manager's dream, mate, do you know what I mean, because a lot of the management in the dressing room was done, you know, Big Terry and that, but unfortunately Big Terry got a bad injury with my time there, do you know what I mean?
Still very close with Terry.
See,
and talk to him regularly.
I played at youth football with Terry at Airdrie and that, and I remember that I've always kind of kept in contact with him over the years, like maybe a couple of times a year we'll text each other and that. And see, for me, I think he's a manager's dream, because I remember being 16-year-old and him coming into the, or 16, 17, he came into the dressing room, and I was quite a big character in the dressing room, and you're like, he was just different, it was so much fun, everybody loved him. And he was like for me, he was a proper leader. If I was at a club and Terry was there, you'd be having him as captain. I just think...
You ever seen his watch?
No.
Quick man, at the rock, we're having a shower on the rock, and I'm like that, covered in soap. And he's like to me, "That you at time?" I'm like, try to get soap at my, I'm like, obviously no Terry, how would I have it? How was I? We're in having a shower, mate. He's like, I just got a new one, it's a Rolex, and he pulled his dash piece. Aries wrist like that. Got the vision, you know. Anyway, I love it, Terry, but that was one of the I actually spoke about that the other day, man. Trying to find out where I could find one of them. Couldn't get that with mine.
Listen, the boy, it was like a matter of setting him up, getting him organised again, getting a bit of belief back in him. They had a couple of defeats in that league, you know. It's difficult. Davy had moved on. So sometimes it's not always better, sometimes it's different, do you know what I mean? Davy done really well with him, do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't sit here and say I was better than, you know, and Davy I've done whatever. What I done was probably different from the way Davy did it, and that's alright and all, because he was, like I said, me man was very successful, and a very successful group of players, and a very close-knit group of players, I would say, which was a good thing. But Terry being injured for a bit was detrimental to us, you know what I mean? We could have probably done a wee bit better if Terry was there, because again he's quite versatile, can play in the back and the middle of the pitch, but kind of stepping into the fold there, you get guys like Davy Green, captain of the team for me, you get Mark Thompson there who, you know, I'd worked with Tom that long, that you know, you had total belief and total trust, and guys like that, like I say, McShane and all that. Craig Buchanan had worked with us before, bringing him in next to Kevin Green. I brought Scott Walker in, right back.
Good player, Scott.
Good
player.
What a good player he, and what a good pro, because part of the deal bringing him in is I wasn't allowed to play him against Clydebank. So Budgie was obviously in charge of Clydebank at the time, and they were going for the league there to try and get back into the Premier League and that, and so they had a good side, and I wasn't allowed to play him, but I remember turning up that day, you know, to play Clydebank, and knowing Walker couldn't play, and he knew he couldn't play and this and that, and I'm on the way in, do you know what I mean? So I met a couple of hours earlier, I'm on the way in, and Walker's on the way out with his gear on, and I'm saying, where you going? He says, I'm from up a road run, I'm going to 4 or 5 mile, because he knew he wasn't able to play. And I just thought to myself, do you know what I mean? I didn't request that, and nobody said it. But I just spoke about I just epitomises the pro that the boy is, you know what I mean?
I played with Scott at Mary Hill, and this was, I don't know if Mary Hill was his first junior team. He's a couple of years younger than me, and he must have only been about 18 or 19, and he was one of the ones where, see, when he came in, we were like, he's a good player. Like, you could see he was a good player, and also you could see he had that good attitude, and that makes a big difference, I think.
See when I used to go to Sally Gunnell, the tunnel, Walker used to go, right, and he used to always want to look like me, see that hair lot at the time, right, no more I'm sure he got a couple of women who used to go, I look like that, no, honestly, it was notorious up there, right, and he had the hair, and it was the same, and he liked a sunbed, and I liked the sunbed, and the hair, and everything looked the same. People used to always go, "You's brothers," and that. But anyway, I don't look nothing like him now, because I'm baldy and all that now, and I'm old. But he did used to try and pull women saying that he was dark, mate. telling you, Murdie,
We'll see if we can confirm that.
I'm telling you.
I'll see if I can hold his number and I'll ask him that.
Listen, Walker was one great pro, but as I say, a lot of good players. And again, it was getting in, you know, getting them organised, getting a bit of belief in them after a couple of defeats a game. And saying, right lads, let's go and have a go at this, and let's really make a push. And again, like you said in the first part of your management there, it was like we went through a period where it was like we were unbeatable. Do you know what I mean? First game was Kilsyth, we beat Kilsyth 2-0, and again ex-goalie mine Andy Carlin was in goals. He was there at Medda, he was a good goalie, big Andy. Do you know what I mean? We just went on for there, and we drew. We are talking about teams in here like Clydebank, who were a really good side. Kilwinning, Straney had a really good side. Kilwinning, they were pushing to go back into the up into the Premier League. They're Largs, good sides, and we were going and beating these teams. And you know, I think we beat Clydebank, we drew with Kilwinning, we beat Largs. Cumnock were in it as well. Big John McEwen, good players, and again close games. I think they beat us 2-1 or something like that. At Blantyre, and but we ended up 5th. You know what I mean? For going like third bottom. For them, we ended up 5th, and the boys bought in it. I got to give them credit on that. So I really do. Their kind of enthusiasm for it, their dressing room, their commitment, their work rate was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. We David obviously instilled that in them, and I know that for a fact. Their work rate was coming. The boys that I brought in to join the kind of group kind of bought in with that. You're saying you've characters like Terry Hewitt, and you've got Lee, and you've got all these boys that are, do you know what I mean? It's easy for these boys to come in and just know this is what we do, this is how we train, and this is how hard we work. And to be fair to the club and the committee, they allowed me to make a couple of changes that I wanted to make in terms of where we trained, and you know the facilities, and they paid a wee bit of money to make that happen. And again, the boys were pleased about that. And we were trying to do things professionally, trying to do things be organised. And when you've got that group of players, then it makes a big difference.
Do you think, because obviously Davy had been so successful with the 2 kind of league titles and stuff, and getting straight up right away, it was like, they were a very good side, and obviously, I know, mate, we can't say it. Obviously, me and Dak have upset a couple of people by saying they're a very physical side, which we mean it as a compliment, because they were very, very good at what they did, but they were also a good football side. Do you think maybe, because obviously they've had the harder spell before you've come in, do you think maybe it just needed freshened up a wee bit? Because you know, sometimes you get, if you're at a club for a long time, it can go a bit stale. And I'm not saying that it went stale with Davy, but do you think maybe just an injection of new ideas to help bring it back up?
I don't know. I don't know, and I don't really know Davy's reason for leaving Blantyre, because he was a very successful manager. I know he's highly regarded there still, and he did brilliantly. Do you know what I mean? With that group of players, and again, that was a team effort for them. And I did. You know, you were seeing them, and you were the good players, and they played good football, and they did these things. And you've got attributes in your team. We have attributes in our team here where you're physical in certain areas, and you go and you do that, and you do it well. But you've got more about you. You've got other parts about you, and I think that's what was kind of maybe lost in what these were saying. And it was the same when I was manager at Blantyre. We had if you look at the spine of our team, you've got Kevin Green, you've got Craig Buchanan, you've got David
Strong,
you've got David Green, you've got Matt Thompson. I brought in Chrissy Craig, who isn't the most physical, but then I've got Jim Martin, Craig Smith at the time.
Big Jimbo's a good player.
So you look at the spine of the team, it was very strong and very physical.
See when you bring the players off out, it's a very good team, isn't it?
I know, see, it's literally, like I played with Davy Green as well, me, him and Terry all played at Airdrie together, And
aren't you friends? All the time, man. You've been friends everywhere with all these clubs you've played for.
cut. But as what you're saying, they're big characters and they were good players as well. What's happened at the end of your time when you've ended up moving on for Blantyre then? Because it was going well for you. How's it ended up moving on from there?
I'll be straight up with you about it. It was like you say, it was my first management job, and what had happened, I'd just been promoted at work. Do you know what I mean? So I'd just moved school, and I would say, so I'd just been promoted at work, and I was starting this new job, and like when you start any job, you're not a clue what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's like
it's always with the podcast.
so like I'm kind of struggling to find my feet with that and get into that new role. What I do in managing people and a few headaches and that and running about it and what I was finding I was doing is particularly towards the end. I'm going to midweek games and that, and I'm sitting at the traffic lights at 6 o'clock trying to pick a team. Do you know what I mean? And I kick us 6:45, and that ain't me. I just no operate like that. I'm well prepped, but because I'm that busy with this new job at work, taking stuff home at night, trying to get things sorted and that, and honestly, it was, I can't even remember the game now, but it was a game particularly. I was sitting there, you're stressed out your head, and you're like, it's 6:15, I'm not even at the ground yet. I've still to do this team, and I've still to, team, and I just thought to myself, you know what, you're not doing yourself, you're not doing Blantyre any justice. And I have to say, the people at Blantyre, they're the committee behind it, do you know what I mean, were first class with me, absolutely brilliant with me. They supported me, it wasn't a lack of support, it wasn't anything like that, they supported me with everything. Players were brilliant, the staff that I had at the time, brilliant, this and that, but it was just the wrong time. Do you know, it was just the wrong time. But that part of the season, that start of the season I had there, do you know what I mean? I look back and often think there was a couple of results. I think we get beat 5-1 with Glencairn. We were doing really well, and then just out the blue midweek we get beat 5-1. It just kind of wheels came off a wee bit on a couple of results, and we get beat 2-0 or 3-0 at Kilsyth. Walker broke his ribs, had to come off. You know that way years later on the season, kind of players are injured, suspended. So there was a couple of results that kind of went against us, or we could have sneaked it. We could have sneaked in. There was playoffs and all at that point. We could have sneaked into it. And but I just felt honestly for myself, my family, and for Blantyre as a club, it just wasn't the right. It just wasn't the right time, and I thought it was the best thing to do for them, because the more that went on, the probably more harm that you would do to a club's chances and kind of moving forward. And at that point in my career, an assistant role was probably the best thing for me, because it didn't have the kind of the pressure of that. I could still go and do the training and do this and do that, which I was getting. I was way back, I was still really hands-on, but I'm still kind of hands-on, and I like to do that. That's, so
you're very much you like to coach and all, you're the manager of the club, you like to get in a boot and all that.
Of course I do, I still like to do that, but you know what, I've got to say, a first class club, a brilliant club with brilliant people.
You've got to say, see the record they've had recently with picking managers. You had Davy Gregg, then yourself, and then Gibby.
Gibby's done brilliant.
I mean, it's be fair, the committee have got to be commended for that, for being able to consistently pick good managers, you know what I mean? So that's something. So how did you end up getting back into football then after kind of stepping away from Blantyre? How did you end up getting back into it?
Well, obviously coming to Pollok, and obviously Tony was the manager at the time, and he's asked me to come here. I think Shooty Alson was retiring, he was moving on, and obviously Pollok's it's a big club, and it's great, and do you know what I mean? Getting asked to come and help here, and like that, and it's kind of coaching and doing that kind of football stuff, and Shooty was the same. He came back here for a spell of days, and a great guy and all. And, do you know what I mean? Going really well, brilliant coach as well.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it, man? Really.
How did it feel for you? Because like myself and Dak, we never played at this level consistently or anything. Like Pollok, I'm assuming you're the same as me. Pollok's one of the ones where, particularly at the time we joined, the juniors roughly about the same. Pollok were the big team at the time, and you're like, it's always had that feeling about it where it's a massive club for our level. See, when you get asked, was a part of you like, oh, fuck, that's Pollok, I really want to get and do this?
Well, there was chats and there was conversations, you know what I mean, going on, because obviously the club and Tony and that were still doing their own part and whatever, and it was kind of coming up in the future, so there was some conversations around it, and I was open to it, definitely open to it. It's a big club, good, you know what I mean, and good opportunity, and like I say, we're grateful for that, absolutely still. You won't get the opportunity, things have changed, maybe soiled a wee bit in certain aspects, but listen, from my point of view, it's one of these things where getting the opportunity to come to Pollok, getting the opportunity to coach again and do a role that it kind of suited me was kind of ideal. I'd done the assistant role that long, do you know what I mean? That
it's natural.
You know what kind of inside out, like you were saying about players, you know what I mean? I wasn't a top player in here, but I played at Ben's and Ashfield and all that, and it was great. I enjoyed my football, but there's no doubt I was a better coach than I was a football player. Do you know what I mean? And I'm honest about that, I'm open about that, you know, with the players.
You love to see people that you've got so much time for do well. So for you being the manager here, for me personally, I love it, because I'm pure. Murdie's a great guy, and that's just me. I always blow smoke up against Arsenal, I always get slaughtered for it, but I'm doing it again, and I love to see it. I love to see a guy I know so well doing well at a massive club like this, mate. Because listen, let's be honest, we're young coaches, PG, yourself, Maxie, Riza, myself at Ashfield. We've got aspirations. We want to try and move up the levels, and maybe at one point.
Do you think when Murdie gets the billet, we'll maybe get a job here?
Fuck, every time I've come down here, I've had a mare, mate, so they're not going to give me the job, mate, are they, really? You know what I mean? Come on.
It always comes to an end at some point.
Listen, see Murdie gets the billet, I'll be down here not a happy camper. I'll be protesting to get his job back. Not doing that, man.
Me and you with signs outside.
I'll be the bum changing myself to the way.
Well, but that way, like he's at his wee car park saying with a sign spelled gaffer, right? Gaffer back, gaffer back.
Do you know what? See, the other day to Murdie, they'll be boycotted after this podcast, and I'm making that decision, right? Kid on Pollok, get behind us, please.
Listen, the bottom line is, you know, you're in football management. The one thing you're guaranteed, it comes to an end at some point. So it's like, you know, it's trying to be as successful as you can, bring it for the club, the supporters, and like I always say to the boys, you know, what you want, your aspirations are winning trophies with your teammates, you know, your pictures on the wall, and be able to come in here in 20, 30 years time and say that's the team I played in, you know, that's when we win the league or we win this and that. That's what's important, do you know what I mean?
See,
but no the money
I have one like that at Maryhill. I go in right and see the player of the year thing. We were that shite that our year there isn't a player of the year. So I have that, I go in the social club and go, I missed us out because we were fucking terrible that year. So I know what you mean.
I thought you were going to claim you were a player of the year, mate.
No, mate, we were horrendous. We couldn't have a player of the year.
I had a couple of player of the years.
He's like, Maryhill's a club, it's a big club, you know what I mean, in its day, but no, this is a great club. Like I said earlier on, you know, you're well looked after here. The boys, you know, you see.
Hospitality is amazing, mate. See when we came down,
when
we came down, the hospitality after the game, before the game and all that, and that shows class, in my opinion.
It's not the norm, that was just because it was used.
That's because you won. See if you get beat, you're going to be like that.
Play a pre-season, you're going to be set up
So how's your time been here as manager? How have you, because you were, like, before COVID happened, you were second in the league. You had a few games in hand on co-winning, so there's been a chance of possibly getting it first. Obviously the Talbot have had a lot of games in hand, and you wouldn't expect them to lose the amount of games they had to lose not to win the league. No. But how was it for you being right up there? Because Pollok, like I said, when we started, Pollok were a top team, and they kind of, no fell away, but they weren't as strong for a few years, and now it seems to be coming back. What have you done to help bring that back?
Obviously, again, you go back to players, you go back to your dressing room, you go back to, you know, the kind of beliefs that you're trying to instill, the style of play that you want to put across, getting the boys to buy into it, having their commitment and their attitude 100% focused on what you want to do, having the kind of longer term aspirations and goals with the players as well, because there's no player that sits in this dressing room, do you know what I mean, that doesn't want to go and win that league or at that point win the Scottish Cup or do whatever, do you know what I mean, that's why they're here, do you know what I mean, ultimately, so it's kind of instilling that, and really, again, sometimes it's no better, sometimes it's different, doing things my own way, do you know what I mean, because like with any time, there was times I worked with Stevie that I thought, I'm going to do it, I haven't done it, he's a gaffer, he's by the way, don't lie, there's hundreds of times where the two said some ding dongs, you know what I mean, about teams, formations,
but this is mad,
and by the way, the man he is, you know, there's times where he turns around and he goes like, right, okay, we'll go with it, and there's other times when no, we're doing the day, we're doing this, and again, you expect that was healthy,
See for you now, Murdie, like, kind of roles reverse in it, because Budgie's been the number one at Clydebank for so long, and then he's came in as the assistant. Not how is it? Obviously it's working, because obviously he's doing really well in that, but how do you think Budgie feels, and how do you think you're kind of...
Budgie's brilliant. He's brilliant for me. You know, one of the decisions that I made, and obviously bringing Baggis and that, but such a big job, and to be the Pollok manager, I think I was about 39 when I got the job here, and to be the Pollok manager at 39 is quite young. Again, it's quite young. It's back to that being quite young, but for being so young, I've probably, because I started so young, I've had quite a bit of experience with it. Do you know what I mean?
I didn't realise that. I'm not saying you're old, but I didn't realise you were 39 when you actually got the job here. That's impressive stuff.
So, I made the decision then I wanted somebody with experience, because thinking back on your experience as well, like Medda, when the wheels are coming off it and you can't put your finger on it and you can't do this and do that, somebody that's been there, done it, bought the t-shirt, been about, connections in the game, fantastic. Do you know what I mean? He's experienced in the game, being a professional player, playing in the Premier League these days, you know, Clydebank playing against Rangers and Celtic, and doing all that and having the career that he had was frightening, phenomenal. And we actually played with him when I was 18. That's when I first came across, and I played at Shettleston. I was only young. That was my first kind of couple of spells in the juniors, and playing with Budgie when he was 18. And even then, Budgie was coming towards the end of his career, but still, what a player. Do you know what I mean? Looked after himself really well, and he was one of the leaders in the dressing room. And he was, do you know what I mean? So having somebody of that ilk and that experience next to you to pull on, who has been a manager in his own right and done incredibly well at Clydebank, kind of rebuilt that club with them there and taken them with great success. Having him beside you, along with Baggis, who are trust, you know, immensely, who's brilliant. He's a great coach as well, and Baggis is one of these boys. His enthusiasm in the dressing room, he's like you, he's mental. They two go on brilliant. You know, he's absolutely.
I know I don't pure know Baggis well, but obviously like Maxie and all that know him, and Beto and that obviously speaks really well of him. So
great and big boy.
You need that, but Murdie, I'm back my case. You need somebody like that in your coaching staff, and about the boys and bouncing off all the boys, and just to bring something different. I'm just so staying a joke myself. That's what I try. So Maxie keeps me in a joke.
They're not just there for that role, they need to bring somebody to the table.
Yes, of course.
And Baggis does, he's an excellent coach. Baggis is a really good coach. And Big Billy Kerr, goalie coach, who's
I know Billy's a gentleman and a good
great
guy.
experience about him. He's worked at Hamilton with me, you know, at Billy previously, before my time he was at Rangers and all that as well, and obviously at the Medda and Ashfield and that. So the basis of that backroom team is...
I'm probably the worst goalie that Billy's ever coached.
I don't know about that.
Do you feel that you lean on Budgie quite a lot? Like I've spoken about this before, and again, it's not the same level, but my assistant Drew Russell, who'd played with the Borough and all that for years, I leaned on him a lot. Like there was, I've said it on this, there was times where I couldn't make a decision. There was like, and I can be quite, as a manager, I was very much, no, I wanted it this way, and that's the way it was. But there's times I'd be like, Drew, you need to take a decision at my hands. It's too nip and tuck between two players or whatever we're going to do.
I do talk to him an awful lot. We've got a really good relationship, and again, that's been kind of instilled. Stevie and I spoke daily, you know, like multiple times a day. It was kind of to a level. It was kind of. She was at his years. Do you know what I mean?
That's like
He's not coming to stay with.
That's like being PG, man. Honestly.
Me and Budgie, we talk regularly. I mean, almost every day, and we talk about different things. And like you say, when we've got to make decisions and stuff like that, listen, there's nothing the matter with Paul's own experience and talking it through and getting a different perspective of it. What he's absolutely brilliant at though, is that he's not an influencer. Do you know what I mean? He'll give you the perspective, he'll give you his experience and this and that, but he knows the decision that you make and you need to make it. There are times, and you know, his experience in the game and stuff like that, you've got to take that. It's absolutely. But all the boys, we all talk about it. I like to get the boys in. We get on a Saturday, we go down to Locks and we get a coffee and we talk about the game. We talk about the team. The team's normally done pretty much 99% done by then. Talk about the different aspects of the opposition and all that, and what we're going to do and how we're going to approach the game in terms of our team talk and that. So we do all that. We try to
do all that before the game and all that.
It's been a bit of time, but he's the staff that I've got here are.
I don't think if people are obviously fans of the club and all that, but maybe if you've not been involved in management, and even I'm talking about including players, I don't think they realise what it is in terms of how close you all get and how much you all need each other, and how, like you're saying, you spoke to Stevie all the time, and I'm sure you'll be the same with Maxie.
Maxie, talk every day.
I still talk to John Conlon. I still talk to guys that are really, really good managers who've got really, really good experience and have got something to share, something to offer. Do you know what I mean? And there's guys about this club like Ronnie Lowry, I'm still very, very friendly. Jim O'Donnell, who's ex-manager here, and that guys that can share their experience with. Do you know what I mean?
See fans and all.
It's valuable.
See fans as well. Like fans turn up, they want to see success in the park. Literally, when you are part of a backroom staff at a club, it's fucking no far off a full-time job on top of your job. I guarantee you're on that blower every day, texting players, dealing with egos, dealing with call-offs, dealing with this and trying to be there for boys to help boys. So listen, it's brilliant being a manager and being a coach, and it can be so rewarding, but it can be hard work.
Even when we came in the night, like you two are talking, and I'm on my phone because the gaffer was working, so everybody's texting me about training tomorrow night, and I'm like trying to put in a list, right, who's making it, who's not making it, and that's just a wee thing to you know what it's like, it never stops, and that's what I like about speaking to yourself, and there's like people have spoken to really impressed me, like Maxie and Moff and Straney and stuff like that, you know what I mean, and Gibby, everybody who's spoken to, like Tommy Malloy, really impressed me. You can see what it means to them, you can see the enthusiasm coming out of them and how important it is. And I don't know if it's because we're finished playing now and it's kind of slightly our generation of guys who are now taking the big clubs. I maybe don't remember it as a player because I maybe never focused on it, but the level of detail that you get out of these guys now talking to them, and I love it. Like, see Moff, when we were talking to him, Moff's telling us about he's got his tactics board up in his house, and I'm like, fuck, I love that, man. That shows. It's good for people to see that it's not just you turn up at training Monday, Wednesday, or whatever, and then a Saturday. It consumes you, and it's great for fans, if there's people watching this, to get to see how much you care about the clubs and what you are putting in.
It's what we do. You know, that's why you get seated and all that aside that part. That's why you get passionate. That's why you end up having ding dongs with people, because it means that much to you. You know what I mean? It does. It mean, and not just me. You know, across the board, all the guys that you've mentioned there, it means the world to them. Do you know what I mean? And you're trying to instill that in your team, and you want it to mean the world to them as well, and you want it to get that across. And you know, and it's what we do. It's what we've always done. Do you know what I mean? So the kind of time that you talked about, it's kind of almost built into your kind of routine, and you're built into your family. Wives become used to it, children become used to it.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Where you are, so it's a bit like that. But again, would we change it for the world?
No.
Yeah, it's like.
Well, just to finish up then, Murdie, what's in your mind? What's the plans for next season? What's your?
That's been on for 3 years, man. That's been 3 days.
I can just see Craig, the cameraman, stretching on his bus, so we need to wrap it up. But which obviously you're going to be going to try and win the league next season. But what's the aims for you for next year? Where's your kind of head at?
The aim is obviously we're in a pyramid system now, and you know this club, it's an ambitious club that wants to be playing at the highest level it possibly can. So, like you say, you know, at Pollok we need to be going and aiming to try and win the league and trying to win the cup competitions and do well in them. We've got a lot of games to play this year, but that's the kind of future. It's doing that, and it's moving up, and it's progressing. And it'll be no different to other clubs that will be there, that will be highly competitive as well. But one thing we guarantee, what a league it's going to be next year. It's going to be a belter. You know what I mean? And every game's going to be manic, and it's going to be top teams playing against each other, really good players playing against each other. You know, I'm excited about it. You know,
I don't know how many times I always say this as well. This is why I'm a big pusher for this podcast and what we're trying to do. Drum up support, drum up interest, because it's going to be brilliant.
I know.
It's going to be like, we're all scunnered with senior football. A lot of us are scunnered with senior football because we've been watching a lot on the telly through everything that's happened. I'll keep saying it, and I'm going to always keep saying it. Go out and support the clubs. Go out and support Pollok's. Go out and support Kilwinning Rangers. Go out and support Ashfields. Go and support your local club, because games down here, Talbot down here, Darvel down here, Kilwinning down here.
It's funny actually.
See if I was near Ashfield.
But in here,
I'd be here. Because he'd give me a free ticket.
See, the thing is, it's like you're saying that it's going to be great next season, and it is. Obviously, us doing this tonight was a wee bit last minute with you inviting us in, which we were delighted. I mean, me and him were buzzing. This was our first episode in person, and I was buzzing telling my missus about it, and it's like, I kind of forgot in a sense that you even last season took a bit out, and the Talbot did, and I was thinking, it's coming back now. This is where the last couple of days I've felt it's coming back now, because we're able to come here and speak to you, and you're like, I cannot wait for next season. And I think that's as good a place as any to finish it.
See, for me, the biggest compliment that I can give Murdie as well is we're just on our start of our journey in the management game, and we still talk a lot about Stevie Rankin, Murdie, the things you've done, the values you installed at the club, and that's sort of wee things that we're putting our own stamp on it, but they're wee things that we try and use. Me personally, mate, I want you to smash it here. I know you will smash it here. You're a top coach, top guy. Yeah, what an episode.
Brilliant.
Well, listen, guys, thanks for coming along. Really appreciate you coming down and inviting me on, and just your first
Super.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Murdie, mate. What a guy, mate. Give me a fucking kudos. Murdie.
I need to plug that back in, so look at the professionalism here, right? But before we finish, this is something I always mean to do. Look at that, brilliant. That's how it's going to get. Before we finish, remember, like the channel, subscribe to the channel. This is all free, but we have costs, so like it, subscribe it, and keep it free.
Just enjoy the show.
Enjoy the show, cheers. Cheers, guys.